What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update and a tournament report for my Mekk-Knight Regenesis profile that I took to locals. So I've done some updates from the previous build that I showed you all the other day. I've also got a demo side deck and shown you some spice that utilized in this deck that put in a lot of work. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm not declaring that the Mekk-Knight Regenesis is the best way to play that deck. It's just one of the ones that, as a fan of Mekk-Knights, when Kyron kind of said and suggested to put the deck together, I thought, that's a great shout. Let's do that and see where it goes. And it actually worked out really, really nicely. I still feel that the Kashtira version is the strongest version of the Regenesis route, but this one kind of allowed me to have a bit more nostalgia, allowed me to kind of dip into the extra deck a little bit more, and also catch my opponent off guard massively. Literally, game one, if they didn't know I was on the Mekk-Knights, they didn't play around it whatsoever, and once I started presenting them with Mekk-Knight monsters, they were like, whoa, what's going on? After that, it was just able to kind of flood the ball with incredibly strong monsters that were able to kind of pick apart an opponent's field and then push in for an OTK. So in this video, I'm going to take you through each of the sections as they go, so all the Regenesis cards, talk about the goods and the bads, the same for the Mekk-Knights, the side deck, the extra deck, you name it, so you have a full breakdown and understanding of the deck, what worked, what didn't work, and what you might want to change. So just to take you through my matchups, my first round was against Yugioh. I ended up winning that one. That was actually a really good grind game back and forth. Game one, I think they kind of just went off unanswered, and that kind of made it a little bit tricky for me to pick the field apart. Game two, I was able to kind of set up such a board that they couldn't break. And then game three is when we was able to go back into a bit of back and forth, slow their board down, and then work through it. Then into game two, I was up against Malice. Malice in game one, they were able to kind of, I won the dice roll, they broke my field and then ended up winning that duel. And then in game two, I ended up getting Lancia and I was able to kind of hold my own on that one. And in game three, they kind of semi-bricked a little bit as well. So I was able to kind of just flood the field with strong monsters and then push through for an OTK. And their top deck was a Chessicat with no other Malice monster to use. Then into round three, I ended up playing Pure Mitsurugi. Up against the Pure Mitsurugi, I ended up drawing that one. We went into time. They were sitting on a Futsu in defense. I had the recursion game going. I just needed to get to my next turn in order to kind of clear the Futsu off and then push in for an OTK or a bit of damage. Unfortunately, we didn't get to that point. And then the final round was up against Mitsu Raiziel with Fiendsmiths. That one, they kind of just went off, really. Like, game one, I didn't really get the field that I wanted to present as much as I could possibly do so. We went into game two. We went into a bit of a grind back and forth. I had to try and do a bit of calculation to see what field they would present. But when you look at the best deck of the format, the reason that Mitsu Raiziel and then you add Fiendsmith on top is so resilient is because they have so many different angles that they can work their way into, that you can start off with the Mitsurugis. That will pull out interactions, that the only hand trap that will really stop them will be a draw on Lockbird. And then once they've done that, they can then work their way into the Fiendsmith. That then kind of pulls out different type of hand traps. And then finally, to finish it off, you go into something like the Raiziels, and the Raiziels then just pretty much set up a detonator or can present a lot more consistently as well. So it's a very, very good test for this deck. It ended up facing basically the main meta decks right now, and then Yugioh is kind of an underdog road deck, which I still feel is a very, very good deck. So with all of that explanation out of the way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the profile. I'm not going to go it card by card as I've done previously, but as I mentioned, what I'm going to be doing on this one is I'm going to showcase you each of the different sections. So we're going to be starting off with the Regenesis. And as you can see with the Regenesis lineup, it is relatively straightforward on most versions of this build. You're going to be looking at 3 Archfiend, the 1 Sage, Lord, Warrior, and Dragon, backed up by 3 Code, 3 Regenesis, and of course the 1 Birth. So I wouldn't change the ratios of any of these, to be completely honest. I do see that more pure Regenesis versions are playing double Sages, which is absolutely fine. The reason that I'm not the biggest fan of double Sage is because you still need to get access to it. And then when you do that, you still need to have a Raiziel card to be able to send. And if you don't have that Raiziel card, Regenesis card to send, it's not really that useful for you. It is still your best option and the best negator, and it does put in a huge amount of work, but it's one of the ones where I'm quite happy with it at 1. Lord is the only one that quite a few people might consider getting rid of, but there are some times where maybe I go through Archfiend, Archfiend gets stopped, but I've hard opened up a Lord, and Lord can then straight away turn off the Archfiend to get into Birth. Birth is an incredibly powerful card. It's rightfully so a trap card, because if it was anything else or if the effects were anything different, it'd be incredibly broken. But being able to constantly keep sending Regenesis monsters and then book a moon in your opponent's monsters each and every turn is invaluable. And then once you get to your opponent's turn and you've set up enough Regenesis in the graveyard, to just sack it off and basically act as a soul drain to then bring back all of your Regenesis monsters with different names, which at the point you could get to will end up bringing you back 4 because you can't bring back Lord, remember that. That's still going to give you enough presence to go, right, well, I've got an Omni Negate on the field, I've got an Archfiend that can search me out a follow-up, or maybe even Lord if I wanted to. I've then, of course, got Warrior, which can return the monsters from the field to the hand and then dragon to deal with a back row. And then during the end phase, once they all get sent off the rebirth, if I haven't even used their effects, they're all just going to add back to the hand anyway. So the ratios of these ones are absolutely fine. The only one you might want to consider in this particular build is maybe relying less on code and going for like 2 code rather than 3, just because of that extra deck lock sometimes can come up. But when you're working your way into that, you kind of save the extra deck lock for later on in the turn, as when you're going with your starters being the Mekk-Knight side, that's when you can really start to bait out some interactions with your opponent. And the only one you really need to be worried about or knowledgeable about is the Nibiru, and respect it a little bit. Speaking of the Mekk-Knights, of course, the ideal starter for the entire deck will be your Yugioh, and then you've got your free purple and your free blue, as both of these cards share 2500 attack and then 2500 defense on the blue and then the purple side respectively, which are the stats required to be revealed for your Regenesis Archfiend. Then I've gone with the 1 Eclipse, the 1 World Legacy World Armor, 3 Memory, 1 Succession, and 1 Secrets. Now, the reason I've got the Legacy and the Armor in this one is because I was going to utilize Lib a little bit more. I made it once or twice. It honestly isn't that necessary. The idea is that you need a World Legacy in the deck that can be sent from the deck to the graveyard by Yugioh. That will then set you up the ability to summon Lib. Lib gives you the ability to then set a World Legacy Succession. You activate the session to bring back the World Legacy Armor, which in turn will then search you out your secrets. And the benefit of that one is World Armor is 25/25, so it does act as the stats you need for your Regenesis monsters to be able to be summoned to the field, but then it can also act as a 25/25 to be revealed in the hand. Not that you want to be doing that, but sometimes that may come up if you do hard open it. The other options to this one, if you want to cut this deck back down to a 40 card deck, is you can go for Crown or Chalice. The benefit of something like that is Crown can summon itself to a zone a link monster points to, and then it can be used as a negate. Or if you go for Chalice, Chalice is in the graveyard, you get to banish it from the graveyard, but not the same turn it's been sent, to then search yourself out a World Legacy card, and ultimately what you're trying to work your way to will be your World Legacy Secrets. But if you're trying to be a bit more aggressive, you can go for your Memories or your Succession. The one thing to remember about the Memories is it does lock you into Mekk-Knights for the entire turn, or for the rest of the turn of the point after activation. So that's one thing to be really important of. With code locking you out your extra deck, you're absolutely fine because you can still summon down your Mekk-Knights. But when you're locking yourself to special summoning only Mekk-Knights from that point on, it really does kind of limit your play. So you want this to be one of the last cards to be used. And then arguably on the flip side, if you wanted to cut the engine down a little bit more, that's when your Memories might be utilized more at 2. Or it can where you open up the space for a Mekk-Knight Red, or of course a second Indigo should you wish to. So that's pretty much it for the Mekk-Knights. The ideal, like I said before, the starter is your Yugioh the Orcus Mekk-Knight, because then you can spawn a token on both sides of the field. Straight away, you're already tempting the Imperm. They have to use the Imperm on the Yugioh, and if they don't, or they don't have it, you're only going to give them a token, which means you don't need to worry about Lightning Storm or Evenly Matched, which can be very, very helpful, as one of the best ways to break a Regenesis field is with an Evenly Matched or a Lightning Storm after already baiting out the Sage. The purple, of course, is the one that you banish to then search yourself out a blue, or sometimes an indigo, which will then come back during your standby phase, and you're just going to constantly have this monster that can keep recurring, and a lot of people will forget about it. So when they feel that they've cleared the field off and they're like, it's okay, you're stuck with a Regenesis in the hand, or you add all the Regenesis back to the hand, they're like, yeah, well, as long as I don't leave a 2500 on the field, and you can't get a 2500 on the field, I don't need to worry about it. And you go, okay, cool, standby phase, purple comes back, and you've required everything you need to. Apart from the Regenesis Archfiend, you've got the 2500 on the field, so that your Regenesis Sage, Dragon, and Warrior can just hit the field. For the hand traps on this one, triple Ash Blossom, triple Fluidos. I went with 3 Bestials on this. Honestly, the reason for this one is that they are 2500 attacks, so they're more reveals that you can utilize. And then it was kind of one of them pressure calls that I felt that if there was going to be loads of Ryzeals, Moza Mitsurugis, these would be a great hand trap to utilize. Ultimately, when I went to locals, there was 4 Mitsurugi decks, whether they be variants, might have even been more to be honest, whether they were just variants or pures or anything else like that. So these would have put in work. I think I saw them once and that was about it. So it's one of the ones that if you feel Droll is going to be more effective in your environment, you main deck the Drolls. If you are going to be constantly going up against all Malice, and you could even arguably main deck a Lancia, but it is entirely up to you on that slot. And then the final one is Infinite Impermanence, but you can pretty much change into whatever hand trap lineup that you feel is going to be most effective for your environment. I wouldn't really change these ones. Like the Florist is just such a deterrent if you go second during Happy Days and you drop that on them and kind of work it. Moving on to the extra deck. So the only cards that I ever summoned, and I'll show you those now because it's very, very simple. Lib, Mekk-Knight, the Morningstar. Even though I played 2, I only ever summoned 1, which is pretty much all you needed. I think I made SP Little Knight once, and that's it. So these are the only 4 cards in the extra deck that I made. I ultimately forgot to bring Ultimate Slayers, which is why I couldn't adapt the extra deck further. But if you wanted to, you could actually adapt it a lot more, and I'll show you some of the cards you would take out for your Ultimate Slayer targets. So these are the 4 cards that I actually summoned. I did also try to set up the IP with your lib. So you'd go IP into lib, and that could get you into your Mekk-Knight Crusader Avramax, and then you'd get Ascend, and this one then wouldn't be able to be destroyed by card effect, but it never really happened. Again, you can pretty much just play whatever you need to, but you got the Link Spider to sometimes turn a token into an effect monster. You got your Spectrum Supreme, it's just like a bit of a boss monster to kind of clear fields off and kind of put through for a bit of damage. Lion of the Light Charmer, just because you play a lot of lights with your Mech Knight, so just being able to revive one from your opponent's graveyard and go into SP or Blue Eyes matchups, anything like that. Typhon, if they're constantly spawning from the extra deck, like this card I actually consider putting at 2 in this deck, for the pure fact that all your monsters are going to be 2,500. Like Blue Knight, Indigo is 24, Blue Sky is 2k, and then you've got your Purple is 25. And then you've got all of your Regenesis at 25 as well, even your Lord, because Lord doesn't become 5k until the battle phase. So if you just go, okay, cool, I'll upgrade my Regenesis Archfiend into a Typhon. You've then got Typhon that has been upgraded, so it's a 2,900 rather than a 25. And then you've got your Typhon to detach to bounce, and then you go, cool, Lord 5k, and then Typhon for the remaining 29, and then whatever else you need to finish the game off. One big eye, it's rare you're going to get 7s on the field because your only 7s are going to be Warrior and Sage. So being able to actually make this is very, very rare. It's going to be more common that you play rank 8s, which is why I've got more of a selection for the rank 8s, being the Ding, 38, number 90, and number 1. But again, honestly, these cards all here could very easily become Slayer targets if you wanted to. So you've got Elder Entity Unce, you've got Garura, you've got Malong, you've got Adjugator, you've got the Link 5 Tri-Brigade, and then you can pretty much put a Ferrogy in if you wanted to. So this is where you've got space to change it up. Like I said, I'll show you my side deck in a minute, and you'll see exactly what type of tech choices that I went with. Some of them are actually very spicy and putting a lot of work. So yeah, entirely up to you. What I was doing is if I was going second, I was actually taking the Gearsus out, and I think this is what I'm going to show you a little bit more. That will probably be a bit helpful for you as well with side decking patterns. So if I was going second, what I'd be taking out is I'd be taking out my 3 Gearsus, and in turn, when you take out the 3 Gearsus, you can then ultimately also take out the Succession, and you could take out the World Armor. Now, the benefit of doing something like that is when I was taking out these 5 cards, which was the easiest 5 cards to take out imaginable, I was then able to go, cool, I'm going to put in 2 Lava Golems, and then if I was in a matchup like Malice, I'd put in 3 Lanciers. If I was in a matchup like Mitsurugi's, I'd put in the Drolls. And if I wasn't in any of those matchups at all, I could then put in Field Breakers, so being Lightning Storms, Feather Dusters, and kind of go from there. Now, on the flip side, if I was going first and I felt that the matchup required it, the cards that I was going for is I would definitely take out the Molchami Fluoros. I could rely less on the Gearsu, so I could actually take 1 if not 2 out. I would definitely be going with 2 Dragon's Mind, and then the spice was 2 Kokumiru Doom. Now, Kokumiru Doom was a little bit specific because it does require you to reveal a Fiend or another Kokumiru in the end phase, otherwise it destroys. But what it does do is it shuts off lights and dark effects that activate during the main phase. The benefit of something like this is you just go full Regenesis play, you normal summon down the Kokumiru Doom, and as long as you have access to reveal your Regenesis Archfiend, which you should be able to control relatively easily, you pretty much shut down a Mitsurugi play. You can also shut down a Malice play, and it can actually be very, very annoying for your opponent to try and deal with, because if you've played it correctly and opened up correctly, usually you have an Archfiend with a Sage, which means they can stop a targeted effect on the Doom, and that means your Doom's always going to keep going through, and you're in a good position. The only downside is it will shut off your Mekk-Knights, but then you can get yourself into a position where you either link it off or destroy it, and then you don't really care about it. So the idea behind that was putting these 4 in. You'd definitely take out the 3 Fluoros, you would rely less on these. And then again, in the right specific matchup is if I was in a Droll specific matchup, I'd put in 3 Droll. If I was in a Malice matchup, I'd put in 3 Lancia. So you have that flexibility to adapt these as you see fit, but Charmian was definitely the one coming out, and that was the one going in. So just so you can see all of the side deck in one go. So like I said, Malice matchup, Lancia, Mitsurugi, and then the Rogue matchup that do a lot of searching. You got your Draw and Lock Birds. For just generic back row and front row hate, you got your Lightning Storms and Dusters. For going second and being aggressive, Lava Golem. And the benefit of this one is I actually utilized this a couple of times in the U-Bell matchup, because what I did is I went Lava Golem their field, summon down Warrior, and remember that Lava Golem has 2500 defense, so it also provides you with stats for your monsters, whether you want to reveal it in the hand or whether you want to just use it on the field to summon out your Regenesis. But with Warrior on the field, what I was able to do is I was able to go, cool, Warrior, bounce back the Lava Golem again, and you're just basically picking the field apart, which is really quite nice. Doom for when you go first, so your normal summon for going second, your normal summon for going first, and then just 2 Dragon's Mind. If anything, it's entirely up to you, but in a different version, like in the Cash Tier version, you'd actually then go, I would probably consider, I mean, 2 Dragon's Mind was fine with me, 2 Doom's actually quite fine as well. You could arguably put up Lava Golem to 3 just because the stats help you out, and I think going second is just a better board breaker or a field breaker to help you out, but it really does come down to you. The difference is, these will take up your normal summon slot, where in a Cash Tier or Regenesis version, your normal slot you don't have. Like, you can play whatever you want on that one. Apart from the normal summon you get off of the back of Birth, that's the only thing you really use it for. Whereas in the Mekk-Knight version, you actually want your Gearsu. So that's one of the ones where I would just take out all the Gearsus, which then ultimately meant that I would take out the World Legacy and the spell card, because it just opened up so much space. I was like, this is the easiest 5 cards I need to put in. I'll go, cool, 2, 3, done. Or 3, 2, done. And it was just very, very easy to slide these patterns in and out, which worked out quite nicely. So that's pretty much it for the entire deck breakdown. I hope this will kind of provide you with a bit more information on the deck. I didn't want to just rinse and repeat a standard update that I'd done previously. I actually wanted to kind of give you a bit more of a breakdown on the deck, explain my matchups, explain how it went, how the deck performed, and kind of go from there. Now, like I've said at the start, being completely honest with you, this is not the best way to play a Regenesis hybrid. This is probably one of the better ways to play a Mekk-Knight version, and the Regenesis can really bump the way the deck of the Mekk-Knights play. But if you're like, I want to play Regenesis, I don't want to go out and buy the Mekk-Knights, what deck would be the best way to play with Regenesis is Cash Tiers. No arguments about that. But if you're like, oh, I love Mekk-Knights, and I've been able to pick up the Regenesis really easily, I didn't even know a version of this deck existed, well, you can put it together and actually have a lot of fun with it. And I was actually pleasantly surprised with how well it did. Like, I knew it'd kind of have a bit of a fight, but I didn't expect it to face Malice and then Mitsurugi's and Ryzeal all in one go. And then kind of go from there. Like, it had a bit of testing, but then to face them all in person, like online and in person is always going to be completely different, because you then need to deal with person-to-person interaction, mind games. You can't always read their thought process of, will they hit that? Will they play around that? Will they go into that? What do they draw? Everything else like that. So playing in real life as compared to online is always going to be slightly different, but it really did work. And not only did the Regenesis catch people off guard because they still weren't completely sold on what they did, but then being able to throw the Mekk-Knights at them as well, a lot of people went, what? So yeah, it was really kind of cool, really fun. So thank you to Kyron on giving me the shout out to put this together. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have considered putting it together. I really, really did enjoy it. I can't wait to see how we go in the future. I know that the Regenesis do get another column-orientated monster, so that might make the Mekk-Knights a little bit more considered. But for now, yeah, it was quite an enjoyable version, and kind of could see what else I could do with it going forward. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.